Okay, it is Friday, August the 10th, and my name is Tony Hughes. I'm honored to be able to introduce our guest speaker tonight. This gentleman is just absolutely one of the most elite people out there in the world. Former Navy SEAL, underwater bomb squad, one of the most incredible people that I've ever met in my life. Just an amazing mentor and teacher, one of the most logical and methodical people that I've ever met, an incredible trainer, and someone who I've come to learn over the last 12 months. When he starts to do research on something, there's not one layer of the onion that he doesn't peel back. He is the master distributor for our company called RX. That's ARIIX, as in X-ray. And he's over the entire worldwide marketing line operations of RX, and is just had tremendous experience in this industry, has made millions of dollars in our industry, and is one of the most looked up to and admired trainers in the industry, someone who has created what arguably is the number one best-selling generic tool for the direct sales industry called Brilliant Compensation. If you've been around this industry, you've probably seen that video because it has sold almost 40 million copies or been downloaded off the internet. Just an incredible tool. And so without further ado, I'm honored and privileged to introduce to each and every one of you Mr. Tim Sales. Tim, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. I appreciate every single person who has made the time for this call. I have it as my intent and my ambition to make this time very, very valuable for you. To put it in the right context, what I'd like to start with is that I am going to assume that you want to own your own business. Or you've been invited to this call to learn a little bit about a filter that we have that has some extremely unique technologies to it. And so I want to make sure that I lay the right foundation so that you can understand kind of from the perspective that this water bottle that we're going to talk about sits. I've been around this industry for approximately 23 years. As Tony has said, I have been quite successful with it. And in that time frame, I only spent about 5 years actually building the business from 1989 to about 1995. And then I retired for 18 years, having built a very successful business that continued to pay me for all of that retirement years. I wasn't sitting back on a yacht. I feel as though that there's far too much to do on this planet to sit back somewhere or chase a golf ball around a golf course. And so I helped the whole industry by creating a couple of tools to help explain it. Also in that time frame, I had the luxury of being able to be in the boardrooms of some 200 different companies, and so I was able to examine all sides of the industry. I also was interviewed by Larry King on this topic of home-based businesses. And so that's really what I'm talking to you about, is a home-based business. And so sometimes I get down inside that onion, as Tony remarked there. Sometimes I get down inside of it, and you might lose sight that it is a business opportunity for you. All right? And so I just want to make that statement in the beginning here. I made the choice to go back to work, not because of the need for money, but because I had a very rare circumstance come right in front of me. And that rare circumstance is there were about 5 or 6 individuals, very elite people, who had been building a $500 million company and very successfully building that company. It was the most efficiently run company on the New York Stock Exchange. And I saw that they were going to be departing that company to start a new company. And you don't get that option twice. It was the most rare scenario I had ever witnessed. And so that's the reason that I became very, very interested. But it wasn't just that. It was that, as I said to a charming lady just the other day who came to my house, they get it. And what do I mean by it? They get it. They know that there are a lot of things that we could be doing, but what we really need to be doing is helping Mother Earth, right? And so, and all the occupants of Mother Earth. And so that has a whole lot to do with this subject of water that I'm going to talk about. It's not the only product that we've got. There is an entire, very elite supplement line that's there. There is also something called Slenderex. I just started on the product. It's a weight management product, and I'm almost on my almost done with my second week, and I'm down about 6 pounds or so. Very fabulous product, and I have to tell you that I am not a gimmicky kind of guy, and I don't fall for gimmicky types of stuff. And so there's some tremendous science behind that. In the future, we've got a skincare line that's coming out, and then just a little bit beyond that, we're going to have something called Healthy Baby Academy that probably has occupied most of my research time of my life. And that was because my wife got pregnant, and I wanted to see how do you have a healthy baby, right? Like nobody wants to have an unhealthy baby. And so all of these, in essence, product entry points that a person can choose to participate to build their own business. These are extremely valuable to mankind, and so I'm honored that I get to be a part of this organization and help direct the field and help suggest to the company and things like that of things that we're going to need. So let me dive into the subject that I'm very, very passionate about, and let me just tell you right straight off the bat why I'm passionate about it. Everything ends up in water. And so I want you to just picture that third grade class or whatever year they teach it, and what they talk about is what does our ecosystem look like? How does it operate? And you first have to have a body of water. That body of water then evaporates because of the sun. That evaporation turns into clouds. The wind blows those clouds in different directions, and then it rains. And it rains fresh water. And that is the way that the ecosystem works. When that rain hits the ground, it'll either penetrate into the ground, and if it keeps on going over probably, depending upon the depth, many, many years, sometimes 100 years or more, to ever get down into the bottom in what's called an aquifer. An aquifer is what the farmer taps into when he drills a well. And so there's a big pipe that goes down into the aquifer. If it doesn't go that direction, then it basically rolls off down the grass and so forth, and it goes into a river, stream, reservoir, or whatever. And so whether it rains, whether it snows, heat, or sleets, hails, whatever moisture comes out of the sky, that's our drinking water. And you may think that there's an unlimited supply, but it's not. Only about 2%, 2.5% or so of Earth's water is drinkable. And less than 1% of that is actually accessible because so much of it is locked up in glaciers and locked way down, way too deep for us to get to in the aquifers. Now, I know that may be a very weird sort of a view, is to even imply that there might be a scarcity of water. But I assure you that is an understatement. And the reason being is because our water is contaminated. All right? It's contaminated. Okay. So how did that happen? And, well, think about that rain that just washed across the grass. Did it pick up any pesticides while it washed through there? Well, if it was around a farm, it did. And if it was around your neighbor who buys the Roundup to spray a herbicide or an insecticide somewhere, this stuff accumulates. How does it accumulate? Well, water is rushing across it or seeping through it. And so it all ends up there. How about the mining industry that it might use or off-gas some mercury into the atmosphere, and then it rains. Well, have you ever smelled a nice clean day after it rains? Why is it clean? Well, because the stuff that's in the air got basically trapped into those little water molecules, and it got it pushed down to the earth. And then where? Into the rivers and streams. And then where? Sucked up by the municipal water supply companies. And then what do they do with it? Well, it might have some bacteria in it. And so what they do is they hit that with another chemical called chlorine. And here recently, because the government feels as though that we're under threat from terrorism, and so what it wants to do is that it wants to add ammonia to that as well to help defend us, just in case somebody drops some bad things into the water for us. And so therefore, those two things together are called chloramines. So when you mix ammonia and chlorine together, you get chloramines. And this is nasty stuff. It's very corrosive. And so now, once it leaves that, and by the way, what they also add to that water is fluoride. And that is supposedly for our teeth, to better our teeth. And so that water then leaves that station, that municipal water supply company, in other words, who you pay your water bill to, and it travels. Okay, so just think of how far that travels and what did it travel through. Did it travel through metal pipe? Then I bet you it's rusted. Did it travel through copper pipe, lead pipe, PVC pipe, until it reaches your mouth? So how far away was the filter from your lips? Quite a long distance. Okay? And what did it pick up along its route? And anybody who has ever done any kind of plumbing, I don't care if you've changed your shower head, just look up in that pipe and look what it looks like. And you already know that it's rusted over, it's corroded inside of there. And it's that way through that 50-year-old, 100-year-old pipe that goes to the municipal drinking supply. But the point that I really want to make to you is that before it ever entered the pipes heading to you, it's already contaminated. Very contaminated. And that is what I have found. And that goes all the way back to when my wife was pregnant and I saw her drinking a lot of water. Basically anything she consumed, I would analyze and see what the potential birth defects was in that. And I found that water was an extremely damaging one. There's a lot of evidence, and it's not just me that's saying this. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, whose job it is to protect us from the environment, they say that lead, and this is a quote, lead in drinking water contributes to 480,000 cases of learning disorders in children each year. I know. How does lead get in there? Well, from the mining industry, from agriculture, from the pipes that it's going through to get to your house. Okay? Now, oftentimes, and just to give you a couple of other ones, 97% of all streams are contaminated with pesticides, and that's from the U.S. Geological Survey. And the Environmental Working Group found that 315 different contaminants have been found in the U.S. tap water, including lead, chromium-6 specifically, pesticides, and rocket fuel. So all that stuff is in there. But that's not all that's in there. Because if you were to take a look at the Southern California Coastal Water Research Project, what they found when they took fresh fish and they dissected the tissue, what did they find? They found pharmaceutical drugs, personal care products, antibiotics, industrial products. Now, what did I just say? Yeah, that sushi you ate had some extra things in it. But what it also tells you is that if it is in the tissue of the fish, it's in the drinking water. And then that was later validated. All right? I used to not care so much about whether or not my neighbor down the street did A or B. Didn't care. It's his life. But now I realize something. Whatever anybody does, we drink. And so that person that's over there washing their hair with shampoo, and then it washes away down the drain. Where is away? Anybody know where that location's actually at? Away? When somebody takes a pharmaceutical drug, they're on Prozac, they're on birth control pills, they're on whatever. When they urinate and they flush it away, where's away? Away is our water supply. All right, so it's called brown water, and that brown water routes itself to the same place that you pay your water bill to. And what do they do with it there? They, quote, treat it. Treat it with what? What they treat it with is chemicals. Chlorine, fluoride, and sometimes ammonia. And there's your whole cycle of water. And if you think that China's pollution problem isn't also our problem, then you'll recognize that it only took about 4 months before the radiated fish from Japan made it to our shores on the west coast in California. That's how long it took for radiated fish to arrive. Right? So it's everybody's problem. Whatever anybody is doing, you're drinking. I know that may sound sick, but you say, well, it's treated. Treated, that's the definition you're going to have to look up like I did. Treated means hit with chlorine. Right? Because it kills bacteria. It does not, I repeat, it does not remove pharmaceutical drugs. It does not remove mercury. It does not remove chromium-6. It doesn't remove any of the things that are so damaging. All right? It's chemicals that are damaging our families. They're damaging you. They're damaging everybody. And so this is it's quite a big issue. All right? Now, the way that it is treated, I want you to just think of something in a very, very logical way. Chlorine kills bacteria, right? Like that's the whole reason that they use it. And if it kills bacteria, chlorine kills bacteria, and yes, it does. And then you drink it. Have you ever heard of good bacteria in your digestive tract? Have you ever been pointed out, or has it ever been pointed out to you that bacteria, good bacteria, is what is basically your immune system? Well, let me tell you about how much of it. If you were to go to the bathroom and do number 2, and you were to dry that out, 1/3 of the dry weight of your stool represents the good bacteria. In other words, there's a whole lot of it in there, right? But if you're drinking chlorinated water, chlorine water, then it's killing that bacteria. And so that is absolutely not healthy for us. And so keep that in mind when you're drinking that type of water. And also anybody who wants to do any kind of research, you're welcome to do so. And that is that on the subject of fluoride. Fluoride may or may not be good for the teeth. It depends upon who you read. But one thing that has absolutely been determined is that fluoride from an ingested, consumed item is extremely toxic. And how so? Well, from different people, Dr. Dean Burke at the National Cancer Institute states, quote, and he stated this in front of a congressional hearing under oath, fluoride causes more human cancer death and causes it faster than any other chemical. And he was there for 31 years at the National Cancer Institute. And what it also does is that it prohibits and inhibits the ability for collagen to form. And so that causes crackling bones and so forth. Women know collagen because it causes them to look young. And the lack of it causes them to look old. All right, kind of the difference between a grape and a raisin. Okay, and so that plays a big part. Now, often I hear people say, "Well, that's cool, but I drink bottled water. I get my bottled water in a Voss bottle, and it comes all the way from Norway." I'm sorry, but Norway is not immune to it. Avian water is not immune to it. And maybe you didn't know this, but 40% of all bottled water in the United States is actually tap water. You're right. So what they do, if you can imagine such an incredible business opportunity as they have, is that they take water out of a tap. And in other words, the same water you got, they mark it up 2,000 to 10,000%, and then they sell it to all of us smart individuals out there, because what they do on the outside of those bottles is that they have these beautiful pictures of rolling water and streams and mountains, and you think this pristine, clean water, and it's just your tap water, hit with the same chlorine that they hit with everybody else's tap water. And that's what you're drinking. And if you say, well, wait a minute, now my water went through reverse osmosis. Okay, to explain that to you just a little bit, there are a lot of different filtering methods out there, and there's two real theories of thought on it, and that is that let's take this big, huge, body of water, and let's start taking it through a series of filters, or smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller filters. And so you get down into these things that are about, let's just call it the size of one single hair on your head, right? So they're pushing this water through this little tiny hole, and what they're trying to do is trap on the outside. They're trying to trap all of the bad things for you, and so they figure out exactly how big is a bacterium, how big is a virus, how big is a heavy metal, like a mercury or anything like that. And so they keep making those things smaller and smaller and smaller. And then they finally just said, you know what? If we create this really, really thin membrane that we push the water through, then it will clean out everything. And that it does. And so when you clean out everything, you're taking out all of the valuable parts of water. And so you're not really drinking water anymore. You're drinking wet. Wet is not water. I want you to think about those hills that I was just talking about, and those mountaintops and things like that. I want you to think about rolling water running down, bouncing from rock to rock to rock. It's very active, very energetic. And every time it hits a piece of that rock, a little bit of the grain or a little bit of the rock breaks apart. And that's why you have soft, round rocks on a stream that's been rolling for a while. Well, where did those little pieces of those rocks go? Those are called minerals. And so when you push water through a reverse osmosis membrane, you have just taken out the minerals. And water acts as an antioxidant in the body because of all this nutrient. It's very alive, is what I'm trying to tell you. But when it goes through reverse osmosis, it's not alive anymore. Okay? And so now you guys are starting to get an idea of, well, heck, we trapped ourselves. We're stuck. We're stuck right in the middle here, because on one hand, we've got the fella next door who's taking the Prozac. We don't want to take any of that. And then we've got, on the other hand, we've got all this junk in it. But if we clean it all out, then the water doesn't have any minerals in it. And in fact, it's a little bit worse than that. I forgot to mention that if you use the water that's demineralized, then the water comes in and it's very hungry. What's it hungry for? It's hungry for that mineral. And what it does is that it pulls those minerals out of your body, and it leaches your body. And so if you're consuming the amount of water that you're supposed to be consuming to detoxify your body, then it's pulling all of that good, healthy minerals out of your body. And it attaches itself to the water molecules and then goes out the body. All right? And so that's the trap that we're in. And so now that you've got a little bit of a picture on this, I'm not going to go into the details around what is in the plastic that holds those plastic bottles. I'll tell you this much. It's called bisphenol A, or it's called a phthalate, depending upon the size of the bottle. If it's real hard, it's bisphenol A. If it's really, really soft and crinkly, that's going to be a phthalate. Both of those disrupt your body's hormones. And if you look around and you look at these teenage boys these days, and even younger, you're going to see man boobs. Man boobs. All right, now what's that? Yeah, it's boobs on a man. Not supposed to be there. Just like there's not supposed to be eggs in a male fish, but that's what's going on now. They're not supposed to be alligators that cannot get an erection, but that's what's going on. The water, when it has bisphenol A in it, or phthalates, it disrupts the sexual hormones. Why? Because it is an estrogen. Estrogen, equate that with the plumbing in a woman. Okay, the reproductive organs in a woman is where estrogen is supposed to be. And so as a male drinks estrogen through, whether it leaches out through the body or wherever, then he begins to take on a little bit of the identity of a female. And that's where he's going to get boobs from. That's where fish are going to get the eggs from. And so, not only are we cluttering and putting way too many bottles, plastic bottles, into the atmosphere with these water bottles, and damaging everything, but we're damaging ourselves. We're losing our ability. The impotency rates are off the charts. The ability to get pregnant is getting harder and harder and harder. And we did this. We did this. Don't point the finger anywhere other than us. And this is that cold, hard splash of water that I had to have myself. Is that I thought, who did this to us? And I played victim for about 2 days. And then I realized, no, nobody did that but us. Because we're the ones that hire the politicians. We vote for them, right? And those politicians, you may think the world perfect, the country perfect, but it's not, unfortunately, because those politicians who need to run for office, they need votes. And voting has everything to do with marketing, advertising, getting your name out there. Who knows you? Who knows of your message? And so for you to pay for advertising, you have to get it on in the newspapers, you have to get it on the television, you have to get out there and get that done. And that right there costs money. And so if a company wants to hire a particular politician, then he goes out and he talks to that politician and he says, I will help you fund your campaign, your marketing campaign. And in exchange for helping you promote this, what I'm going to ask you to do is that I need you to vote a particular way on environmental protection. I need to make sure that you understand that the monies that are going to get you here come about because of our water company, or come about because of our pesticide company, or come about because of our shampoo company. And we cannot continue to do business if you're going to require us to abide by the laws that we cannot dump our toxic waste into the water supply. You guys get that? You think this is a theory. It's not. It's absolute. There's right now 125 pieces of legislation up against the Environmental Protection Agency to limit how many slips that they can basically hand to companies and say, you can't dump any more toxic waste. Because the company says, well, where am I supposed to put my toxic waste? And that's the trap that we're in. And because we are the people who did not realize that every single time we buy shampoo from a company that has a toxic chemical in there, that we just donated money to that toxic chemical. Not only did we flush it down our drains, but we donated money to the companies that make them. Every time we eat foods that are not organic, we're donating our money to those companies that create pesticides. And so when we finally get done getting ill-feeling from what we've done, because it's been our ignorance, it's been our lack of involvement, whoever we've been trusting to protect our great planet, we should fire them now. And we should take the ball back as responsibility for ourselves. And so I admire RX for its stepping up and coming up with this water bottle. I want to talk to you about the bottle real quick here. What you've got is that you've got a bottle, and inside the straw of that bottle is a filter. It's a very unique filter. I've examined a lot of them. I even went down to the office of the engineer who makes these things, and I've talked with him a whole lot. And I've gotten to understand how filters work. And what do people use as their definitions of what that filter does. Okay, and that's it's a subject all on its own. And what I mean by that is what's the filter rating, or how does this particular filter work as compared to that one? And I've gotten quite an education, and I can't be more impressed by the way these guys have done this. Okay, so here's basically the breakdown. If you were to take that filter and you were to take a hacksaw and you were to saw that filter in half, what you're looking at is some incredible technology. And here it is. On the very outside core, okay, so I want you to just picture the straw is on the bottom. And as you draw liquid water up through the filter, the first thing that it does at the bottom of that filter is that it splits and it goes around the outside of the filter on the inside though, and it has to go through zeolite. There's a sleeve around the outside called zeolite, or the ingredients that make that thing up is substance would be the right way to say it, is zeolite. Now zeolite just happens to be Mother Nature's radiation container. Okay, so what it does out there is that it contains radiation in the earth. Zeolite. Don't ever forget that word, because it's an amazing, amazing substance. And so not only that, but it also suppresses the growth of bacteria. Okay, so I want you to just picture all those filters out there. And there's a filter and it's got a tiny, tiny hole in it. And all this bacteria can't get through because the bacteria is too big. And so water seeps through there, but the bacteria stay, let's say on side A, the dirty side. Side B would be the water that got through there, and that's the clean side. So on the dirty side, you've got all this bacteria that builds up. And builds up. Well, this stuff multiplies really fast. I'm talking about millions an hour. And so as this bacteria builds up, it can actually break itself through those filters. Okay? And so, but if you had a substance around the outside of your filter that actually kills the bacteria, then you're not going to have any growth inside the filter itself. Big issue that no one ever talks about out there, because they throw the smoke screen up around how tiny their filter holes are. But they don't tell you, it's full of living bacteria that are multiplying at a very rapid rate. Alright, so what zeolite also does, not only does it assist with the radiation, but it also reduces the lead and heavy metals that are coming through there. And so that's the first thing that we grab a hold of. So it's very resistant to the growth of bacteria, algae, fungus, mold, mildew, all of those things that sit on the inside of filters. And then, once it gets through that zeolite sleeve, it then hits, it's somewhat of a two-stage process, but it's actually viewed as just one. First thing it goes through is this nanofiber filter. Now what does that mean? I want you to just picture that there's a bale of hay. And you were to squash that bale of hay down into a little tiny sugar cube. And you were to push water through that. Now, the junk, the things, the bad stuff get kind of trapped up in all of that fiber that's inside of there. Even though it's not a hole, it's a fiber. And so it has to basically run itself all the way through there, and it gets trapped in there. Well, what they did, if you've ever heard of colloidal silver is an ingredient that is often called the nature's antibiotic. And so it also kills the bacteria so that it's not festering and building itself inside the fibers. And then, before you actually get that water into your lips, it goes through a coconut shell carbon. And what is that? It's basically several thousand times smaller than talcum powder, but it's coconut shells that are ground up really, really small. And so when the water goes through that real fine stuff, it captures all the, not all, you can't ever say all in this world. I just want you to know that. But it captures a whole lot of that chlorine that was heading towards your digestive tract. And so what you get is good drinking water, right? It's not been demineralized. The minerals make it through there. All right, so that's an amazing filter. Now I want you to think about that story that I told you about from the company that you pay your water bill to. How far from the filter to your lips is the water? It starts off, and it could be 20 miles away. It could be 120 miles away. But it goes through all those miles of junk and corrosion and everything, and then you drink it. But I want you to think about that filter that's in the bottle. There's a straw, and I actually have measured it, and I think it's 2.4 inches from the tip of the straw, where your lips are on, to the filter. And so that's how much distance has to travel between the filter and your lips. Okay, so there's not a lot that can go wrong between that distance as compared to your water company. We're not adding the plastic out there. We do not have the bisphenol A and the phthalates, which are endocrine disruptors. They're not in this. And so it's very, very valuable to you, to mankind as a whole. And it's one small thing. So anybody who says, it's just little old me, how can I change the world? No, little old you added to a whole lot of other people who buy plastic bottles creates a very toxic world. Who buy non-organic foods create a very pesticide, chemical-laden world. But you, combined with a whole bunch of other people who buy one water bottle and all you do is change the filter, right? That begins to accumulate if we make it accumulate. And so that's how you change the world. Just the same way that we made it not so good, we change it the other way. And so, why did I join this as a business? Because this company gets it. This is a crusade for me. This is not a money-making venture, although I make money. And if anybody ever gets this notion, well, gee, Tim, isn't this just a money-making thing instead of a save the world or help the water supply? And I'd have to ask you to just please look at the profits of Pepsi, Nestle, and Coca-Cola, because they own about 40% of all the bottled water companies in the United States. I want you to look at their profits. They don't seem to have a problem making money off hurting people. And so I thought, because you know what, I did go to some people and I'd say, hey, could you donate because I'd like to forward this idea, this legislative idea, and get laws passed. Could you donate some money? And people would say, oh, Tim, I don't have the money, man. Time and time again. And so I just sat there thinking, now how do the water companies get donations? Who donates to the water companies in order for them to fight environmental protection? And then it occurred to me, well, these people are making money off of every single bottle that anybody buys. And they're making 10,000% markup sometimes. Most of the time it's between 2 and 10,000. And so I thought, well, what a novel idea that we actually reward people for saving the water. That we reward each individual financially. And so I have some ambitious goals. All right, I want to at least have 1 million people hear this message about water. Not necessarily my message, but just the message. And about 100,000 of those, I hope they make $100 a month. And about 10,000 of those, I hope they make enough money that they can work from home and help fight this. And I want about 100 of those people to make $1 million. And so that they can contribute and donate the money that's required to lobby, if we have to lobby, so that we can really make a difference. So many times I hear people say, what I really, really want to do in life is make a difference. Well, you just heard it. It's very noble. It's for everybody. There's not one single person on this planet that's not affected by water, because water is the ultimate accumulation point. I've exceeded my time, and I apologize for that, although I do not apologize for my passion for this. Because where else are we going to go? My wife said the most ironic thing. She said, what are these guys thinking? That keep throwing the toxins into this world. If they make $1 trillion, it's not like they can go buy another planet. We all got to be here. Their kids are going to have to go somewhere. And I thought it was very appropriate. And so I urge you to contact the person who put you on the call. Let them know that you're very interested in this Purity water bottle. It's a unique item. It's very needed in every country. Myself, I look at it from a lot of different perspectives. I have myself, my wife, and my son Tristan. I bought water bottles for all three of them, and I bought enough filters for at least a year. Why? Because that water bottle, unique as it is, it allows me to reach down into any puddle. Well, that was my wife texting me. I'm sorry, I didn't turn that off. How appropriate that it comes right at that time. And so I bought enough water filters in bottles to last our family a year should anything ever interrupt our supply of water. Because all I would have to do is find a puddle somewhere or a stream anywhere, and I'm able to dip it into the water and have drinking water, good drinking water. It's not going to make me sick. It's going to be good water. And so for me, just from a survival emergency preparation, and if you ever, it was kind of funny because I'm normally Mr. Prepared, and not too long ago, in fact, Tony was at my house, the power went off. And I fumbled around, and if that's ever happened to you, fumbling around trying to find the candles and trying to find the flashlights and things like that, then you'll know if something happens to our water supply, what are you going to do? And there's a lot of people around the Utah area who conserve water. They store it. And that doesn't last very long. And what are they storing it in? Plastic. And so, because the bacteria builds up in there and it leaches the toxins. I was just happened to be sitting waiting for Laura at the salon yesterday. It was a gentleman who delivers water for Walmart. That's what he does. And we got to talking, and he goes, "You want to find something funny?" I said, "Tell me something funny." He said, he goes, "We opened up a whole bunch of water, and we were drinking it off the back of the truck." And he said it all tasted like soap. And so we thought we better tell somebody about this because it really tasted soapy. And come to find out that the truck that had brought those crates of bottled water had been inside of a truck that there was soap that was spilled in there. And because of the thinness of the plastic, that every single one of those bottles of water tasted and smelled like soap. In other words, the soap was leaching in through the plastic. He said, "Tim, if you want to do something pretty interesting as a test and a trial," he says, "just go down to the grocery store, buy a whole bunch of, just those little small bottles that are about the size of your hand." And he said, just put a couple of them closed. Put a couple of them in a small container that's got kerosene or any kind of paint thinner or something like that. Just leave it there for 3 or 4 days, and then take that water out and just have people smell the water and say, "Is that good water?" He goes, "And I'll guarantee you they're going to smell kerosene." He said, "Because it leaches through the bottles." And so we don't have that. That's not the situation here. And so for myself, I bought 3 of them. For emergency. I bought 3 of them for us to use. And so when we go into restaurants and they serve water, I know what's in that water. Nobody else does, but I do. And so I pour that water into the Purity water bottle, put the lid on it, and I drink it through there. And my whole family does. All right? I'm not paranoid. I'm knowledgeable. There's a big difference. Just thinking, everything is just fine. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. And so it's called raising the awareness level on water. And so do contact the person that put you on this call. Tell them you'd like to have as many water bottles as your family needs. And if you see this crusade as something that you can get behind and that you should get behind, then please talk to the person about joining the business, because I hope you make $1 million. Really, I do. Helping the water supply. What could be more noble? Because there's not anything that survives without it. It's not just us. It's all the plants on this planet need water, and all the animals need water. And so it's very noble for us to be doing what we're doing. Mr. Hughes, I so appreciate that you put this call together. Thank you so very much. And for every single one of you that were on this call and listened to what I had to say, you're welcome to do more research on it, because it's in black and white. It's all over the place out there. If you just can confront the evilness of what we've created and say, hey, I'm going to do something about this, even if it's just little old me, because I don't think it's little old me to any of us. And so, Mr. Hughes, thank you for the time that you've given me here.
Thank you, Mr. Pintails. We really appreciate you and all that you do to inform us and help out this incredible company and the cause and the crusade. And thank you very much. Just wrapping up, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you that tomorrow we have 4 very unique opportunities. If you want to learn more about the company that Tim represents as the master distributor, feel free to call in on the same phone number tomorrow, Saturday. We have 4 live phone calls. They will not be exactly like this. In fact, Mr. Sales is not going to be speaking tomorrow, but we have four of our top leaders that will be speaking tomorrow. 11 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Pacific, and 5 p.m. Pacific. Same phone number. Just call in at those times if you want to learn more about the ARC's opportunity. We'll go ahead and wrap up the call at this point. Again, thanks, Mr. Pintails. Appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful evening. God bless. Good night.
Good night, everyone.